to attract both domestic and foreign investment and thereby stimulate economic growth, provision of jobs, and reduction of poverty. And his target remains a $1 trillion economy by 2030, $1 trillion in GDP. And to achieve that, a stepping stone or a staging post will be the target of 7% per annum GDP growth by 2027. And it is not just a figure for the sake of it, not just an economic target. He emphasized that it is a moral imperative because this is the only sustainable path to leading millions of Nigerians out of poverty. In terms of the issue of the directive, yes, the economic management team has a directive, and it speaks also, obviously, to the question of the chairman. They have a directive to look at these charges, these fees, these deductions, and to see what efficiencies can be achieved, what savings can be achieved. Because, as I had mentioned, the figure, the percentage of savings needs to be increased. Yes, we look for foreign savings, we look for domestic savings of the private sector, but even then, the government itself needs to, as it's boosting revenue, ensure that spending is efficient and is minimized such that there's a surplus to invest, as was pointed out, in growth-enhancing initiatives like the Renewed Hope grassroots development program, the World Development Program, to be rolled out in 8,809 wards to empower, finance, and support Nigerians who are economically active, thereby increasing products and services, and by that way, achieving substantial economic growth. In terms of customs, the CG of Customs was recently before the National Assembly, and he pointed out that, yes, he has a law that says that the charges should be 4% FOB, is what he should be charged. But in implementing that, he's in a process of consultation and speaking to the various stakeholders and seeing an efficient and a viable and acceptable way of implementing the law or otherwise. And that process is still ongoing. But let me say this, that in terms of the support that is needed from the trade sector, definitely we know that our costs at the ports are relatively high. We know that given the competitiveness of Nigerian manufacturers, very competitive exchange rate makes our goods cheaper in foreign countries, and there is that demand. But that opportunity has to be supported by facilitation of trade, by minimization of costs of transportation, costs of clearing, costs of import and export. And as you know, we are expecting by the first quarter of 2026 to roll out the National Single Window Trade Modernization, Trade Facilitation, and Revenue Improvement Program that will make our exports and imports more efficient, more cost-effective, and more competitive. Thank you. He did.
Which question is that?
I answered the question on the deductions by saying that we are looking for savings. We are directed to look at the feasibility and to look at the appropriateness of various charges which have been deducted over time to see what economies, what savings can be made there, including the fact that NNPC charges a 30% management fee. It charges a 30% fee for management of the Frontier Fund. Those are items that the economic management team has been directed by His Excellency Mr. President to look into and come up with our recommendations, and that is what we will do. Thank you.
Thank you, Lanre Lasisi. Let me begin again by just clarifying the information. Today, the 7-year moratorium on establishing new federal tertiary institutions, universities, polytechnics, and colleges of education, federal. In November of 2024, we had already given directive and implemented 1-year moratorium on establishing private tertiary institutions, private universities, private polytechnics, and private colleges of education. So that moratorium was existing before today. We don't have the power to put moratorium on state establishing universities, polytechnics, and colleges of education. 7-year moratorium on federal tertiary institution, 1-year moratorium that already been given, that had already started last November on private tertiary institution, with the proviso that that will still be reviewed. Now, to succinctly answer your question, Lanre, the kickoff start today after the FERC approval. It's effective from today. But what's happened is that there are several acts of federal universities, polytechnics, and college of educations that are already resolution approval today, which I'll read, that in relation to any already approved tertiary institution which are here to take off, the Ministry of Education should, from the date of this approval, which is today, determine the desirability or otherwise of establishing any of such tertiary institutions in the country based on national spread, access, and availability of infrastructures and resources. So the fact that those acts were signed by the President doesn't mean those tertiary institutions will see the light of the day. The President has already approved the given us the go-ahead to set the guidelines based on this. So, and I'm going to use this public podium to appeal to our politicians, more importantly our legislators. We don't need to open more of this tertiary institution. And today is a good day. The President has put a full stop and full break on this. And even the acts that have been signed are not, some of them will not see the light of the day based on the government, based on the guidelines and approval that the President has given us. And we're not giving concessions to private universities. They already had moratorium placed 1 year ago. It was just universities that had been applied, the application that had gone first stage. And we've been very careful to avoid any abuse of those. We know those 76 universities. And I'll tell you, with a new guideline that was just advertised last week by NUC, less than 20 private universities will meet those criteria. So we are hoping that in the next, in 90 days, we'll know fully. And I can tell you the numbers of active private universities. But then we now know that we have this umbrella, this envelope. No more rampaging establishment of universities that we don't need. And now you talked about, and I'll use that to address the question that Rufai asked before going to the conversion that you asked. Yes, we have access, we have lots of federal tertiary institutions out there. We don't even have students to go there. Investments are there, investors are not getting any return for the money, but then, and that's why we've come today to get to this point, to realization of the problems that we have in terms of quality. There's no need building more federal tertiary institutions without improving the quality of the education that we're giving out there. You go to several of these universities now, federal tertiary institutions, we've converted secondary schools into universities, into polytechnics, into college of education. And year over year, we're appropriating. We have institutions, universities that had more staff than students. So, but today, we've put a total stop to that. We will now invest these funds into building, into improving infrastructures, into improving instructional processes at those universities, into building more engineering workshops, building more laboratories, so that we can have more functional education, and also invest more in hiring more competent lecturers, and also training them, building their capacity. As you know, TED Fund, the way TED Fund disburses money to tertiary institutions, the denominator is the number of universities, numbers of polytechnics, numbers of college of education. The numerator is the amount that TED Fund will disburse. If we are successful now, if we are now successful in reducing those denominator, more funds will go to these institutions. Then even from a budgetary envelope that we have more funds that will deploy to this federal tertiary institution to improve quality. That's the mandate that the president has given us, the highest quality of education that every single Nigerian seeking to get should have. And that's what we're working aggressively on. Now, to talk about polytechnics that people are not applying to polytechnics. Yes, we have this knack. We think the BSc is the best degree. And we created this societal dichotomy between BSc, HND, and NCE, which should not happen. So what we're working now is that we're actually going to review the Polytechnic Act to start letting Polytechnic give Bachelor of Technical Education, so that they are all comparable. We've done that for College of Education. We have the dual mandate that we're starting this September. Every single federal college of education today from September would give a National Council of NCE and BEd, Bachelor of Education. By next September, states would also plug into that. So the dual mandate is already existing, has been approved to go into effect this September for College of Education, and we're working for polytechnics to give bachelors of technology. And now that says it all as well. With our technical education, we now have with new vigor in expanding technical and vocational education, and you've seen a TVET initiative that is going to go live. We're going to admit the first cohort of students at the end of this month, I think August 21st. When we open the portal for that, within 10 days, 1.3 million Nigerians applied. So we've made provisions to pay them. We'll pay them stipend to go to this to go to these technical and vocational schools. We'll pay them about 15,000 naira stipend a month with 7,500 for transportation. So each student will get 22,500. We're also paying the institutions, and we're paying the MasterCard person, as well as when the students, when they finish training, 6-month, 12-month training, they will get starter pack to be able to start working. And even if they want to get more entrepreneurial, we've worked with Bank of Industry to give them single-digit loan to expand whatever businesses they want to do. And I'm happy to report that today, this year, compared to the last 20, 30 years, we have the highest number of enrollment. People applying to our federal and technical colleges. They are now oversubscribed. And I'm happy Nigerians are now seeking education that will provide them meaningful skills, life skills, not just education with no skills. Thank you. Well, explicitly applies to conversion. No conversion of colleges of education or polytechnics to universities. Period. No new federal tertiary institution, either de novo or conversion. Thank you. WAEC. Do you give me the permission to talk about WAEC?
Okay, well, the time is just...
Yeah, okay. I had to get the approval.
Thank you very much. My sister who asked of the location of the bus terminals and the contract sum, I have said it in my submission, but I will resubmit again. The location are as follows. Northwest is in Abeokuta. Northeast is in Gombe. Yeah, the locations were chosen on their economic viability. Let me take Gombe for instance. Gombe is in the center of Northeast. It linked to Bauchi, Adamawa, Taraba, Yobe, and Borno. Maybe you take Kano in Northwest, or Onitsha in Southeast, or Wari in South-South. So the locations were taken based on the economic viability of the areas. Thank you.
So thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for your time. As I always end, please report responsibly, honestly, and patriotically in the interest of our country. Thank you for keeping a date with us. Next time we'll be here again. Thank you.